And if you're new, just take the music down, please. If you're new, we welcome you to the Live Right family. That's who we are in Live Right Ministries. And this ministry was birthed by God. It's different. I'm not sure if it's unique, but it's different to the other ministries. It's not a church. We come here, and many of us, almost all of us, belong to different assemblies. Well, this is our assembly now. This is where we fellowship, my wife and I, my family. But many of you belong to other churches, and we welcome you because we are all members of one body, the body of Christ. And there's no denomination, there's no division in Christ. Christ is one. We are his body. He's the head and we are his body. So it's one complete body, and that's who we are. So we welcome you if you're here for the first time. And we just say, as long as you're here with us, you're part of the family. No membership form to sign, anything like that. No monthly fees, nothing like that. We just welcome you here. And we call what we do every night Kingdom Study. That's every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 9:30. We study the Word of God. And okay, I was just thinking in my head, it's an announcement that I have to make, but I think I'll do it after. Anyway, so we have been looking over the past few nights on this whole issue of who am I and who are you? Basically the same question. I'm asking who are you? You asking who are you? And and we have to ask ourselves, who am I? Who am I really? Because if I understand who I am, it will help me fit in with my place in the world. It make me understand what I'm supposed to be doing, what my role is, what my purpose is, what my function is. And so we have to discover who we are. And also because when we know who we are, people would not tell us that we are something else. People would not lead us to believe that we are something that we are not. And right now in the world, when we look around, it's so prevalent now where identity is a big issue. We are born one way and you're identifying as something else. And so it's challenging for us. And so we, the people of God, need to understand this is a serious problem that is taking place in the world. So we want to rediscover our identity. So we're asking the question, who am I? Who am I? And we looked at different things. We looked at the fact that we are great. We have value. We have worth. And the reason why we have worth is that we were made by God. That's one. And whenever you see something that is really expensive or fantastic, or in some cases priceless, the person that created that thing has to be somebody great. And we could only, most of the time we think of paintings on painters like Leonardo da Vinci and who's the other one? I can't even think right now. Great musicians like Beethoven and Chopin. People still play their pieces and say, wow, how great these are. I could have done some of the things, I'm sure, but people wouldn't value it because it's me. but Chopin, Da Vinci, wow. People will run to that and they'll buy. And so depending on who the maker, the creator, the artist is, the thing gets valued. And so we saw because God made us, we have value. Because God is the ultimate creator. He is the creator of the universe. And if he, in creating the universe, also created us, then we must be great, we must have value. And then we are looking at the fact that we were created not just by God, but we were created like God, in his image and likeness. And we looked at the fact that image is the external, it's the characteristics, it's what it looks like. Everything about your form reflects something else. So if we were made in God's image, if we were formed in God's image, then his image is on us. And everything that we are reflects who God is. So when we look at our external self, our head or eyes or mouth or nose, everything about us points to God. Everything that we are is a reflection of who God is. We're in his image. We also said that an image can be made of any substance. so that it doesn't have to be of the same substance as the thing itself. So a image could be on a paper, it could be in a pool of water, puddle of water, it could be on a wall, it could be wherever. All right, image can come as long as it looks like and it represents and it points to the original, then it's an image. And so we saw that God took the dust of the ground, the dirt, and formed man, gave man the image that man has, which is a reflection of God. We also saw that God made man not just in his image, but also in his likeness. And we said likeness is different to image. Likeness is similar in substance. This made of the same stuff. You're like one another. And so if God made our image, gave us our image, or the image of him from the dust of the ground, because he could use anything to reflect him, then where was he going to get his likeness from? Because there's nothing like him. Likeness has to be similar in substance, similar in substance is the only word I can think of right now. And where could God get something that's similar in substance? And there's nothing in the universe like God but God himself. So God had to take a part of himself to put in us so that we could be like him. How did he do that? The Bible said he breathed into us. And that breath that he breathed into us contain the components that make up God, who he is. And so we've been looking at the attributes of God, the components that make up God, that tells you who God is. We looked at the fact that God is faithful. He's always there. He will stick with you no matter what, from beginning to end. He will not leave you or forsake you. He is faithful. We saw that God is righteous. He's right in all his way. Every decision he made is right. It's morally right. It's spiritually right. It's right in every area. And we saw, when we were looking at faithfulness and righteousness, we saw that we are also called to be faithful. That is why in a marriage, a husband has to be faithful to his wife. A wife has to be faithful to her husband. You should be faithful to your ministry, faithful to your children. Children should be faithful to their parents. Whatever you connect with, whatever you're a part of, you should be faithful. If you're part of a group, you should be faithful. If you're part of this ministry, you should be faithful to the ministry, because we have the capacity to be faithful because we were created by God. And righteousness, we are called to be righteous. We are called to be in right standing always. And so we are like God. And we were called, in fact, the Bible says we are the righteousness of God in Christ. We also saw that God is powerful and mighty. He is powerful and mighty. He's the almighty God. He's omnipotent. And the Bible says that power belongs to God. When Jesus was teaching, he says, thine is the power and the glory. In fact, what he was in fact saying is, God, the power is yours. The glory is yours. Power and might belongs to God. And we also are powerful. We were made powerful, and we saw that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. And other scriptures that point us the fact that we are powerful. God is also compassionate and gracious. That's the last thing we were looking at. He's compassionate. And we saw where God has shown compassion over and over to the children of Israel. Over and over, he had compassion. They would sin, they'd go away from him, they repent, and he had compassion. And he would touch by their feelings. They cried out to him when they were in Egypt. He had compassion and came down. And he's gracious. His grace is extended. And so if God is compassionate, we are supposed to be compassionate. We saw Jesus being moved with compassion many times. Jesus was moved. Compassion moves you to do something. And we looked at the story of the widow of Nain. When she was coming out, she was a widow, and her husband, of course, had died, made her a widow, and her son, her only son, had died. And it meant that she was left all alone, and no one there to help her because the woman didn't work, they didn't earn an income. And when Jesus saw her, he had compassion on her. And we looked at the story. Let's just take a look at a couple other scripture verses, just two stories that shows that human beings have the capacity to have compassion. Exodus 2:1-6. Exodus 2:1-6. Let's just take a look at that quickly.
Good evening, family. Reading
Yes.
from the New King James Version.
Mm-hmm.
And the man of the house of Levi went and took as wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children."
Thank you. So here it is, a woman who had a boy child, and they weren't supposed to have a boy child in those days because Pharaoh was killing all the boys. And when she saw, when she saw he was a beautiful child. Now, I don't know which mother in the world would not say their child is a beautiful child, but she saw that he was a beautiful child, and she hid him, but she couldn't hide him any longer. Why? Because, I mean, he was growing up, and he would have to go outside and play, and of course they would see he was a boy, so she couldn't do that. So she took, she made an ark, a little boat, and put him in and put him on the river. I want to find out from you, lady, how many of you would have had the guts to do something like that? To put your child in a basket, literally. Of course, it would have been secured. It was not the kind of basket that we have here. All right? It was something that would secure him. It would be waterproof, unless, of course, it turned over. So tell me, I just want to hear from you, ladies, one or two ladies. How many of you think would have had the gore, the guts, the bravery to put your child in an ark like that? Let me hear from you. Ladies, we have more ladies in this family than we have men. So, ladies, let me hear you. And I know we have many mothers here as well, too. So let me hear you. No ladies, no mothers? Okay, do we have any hands up?
We have Elder Mary and Elder Sherry.
Elder Mary and Elder Sherry. Now, before I answer, I know this story, eh? It's not the story I'm asking you about. I'm talking about you as a mother. You as a mother. Would you have had the guts to do that? Elder Mary.
Good night, Dr. Richards. Honestly, if that is what I had to do in order to save my child, I would do it. Because okay. I know that somebody, somewhere along the line, because God would have put that thought in my mind, because as a praying person, you would have cried out to God first. And God would put somebody to see about that child as it should be seen about. It's rather he go with another family or somebody else and I keep him and he die.
Okay. Thank you, Elder Mary. Elder Sherry.
Because of the unknown, Dr. Richards, I would not have taken the chance because I don't know what would become of the child. I might think I was doing it for the child's benefit and the child would be safe. Some alligator or some kind of thing could have taken the child on the riverbank, so I would have, found or sought other ways to secure the child.
Well, the thing is, I'm not sure they had alligators and then because they said Pharaoh's daughter was bathing in there, so I guess it would have been safe. But still, I mean, it would have taken a lot. And do you think that that was the plan? We know what happened. Do you think that was the plan? And why do you think so? Anybody? Do you think the plan, how it worked out? Do you think that is what they foresaw in their mind?
Dr. Richards,
so,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So, Dr. Richards, we have two hands up, Brother Dylan and Sister Christy.
But Sister Sherry said it best, exactly what I was saying to the boys is exactly what she just said. Dr. Richards,
Okay, you're sounding very faint to me.
You hear me now?
No, I'm hearing you.
You're hearing me?
Yeah, oh, that was it's you talking?
Yes.
Sorry. I was hearing you very faint. You said I didn't make out your voice. Sorry.
Right. So I'm saying that we have Brother Dylan hand up. I saw someone else, but they took their hand down. But I was also saying exactly what Elder Sherry said is the same thing that I was saying to my boys. I cannot, I just told them that I said I will not be able to do it. So, you know, Joshua was saying, well, yeah, mommy, but if you know it's a better life, I said, I don't know if something's gonna come out of that water and take you all, you know, so I would prefer to hide my child, Dr. Richards, in the grass and stay where I can sit down whole day and look and keep watching to make sure you know, that the child is okay. If I have to hide the child and run feed my son and come back, but I can't as a mother. I don't know what the unknown has out there for them. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
Thank
Brother
you.
Dylan, and after Brother Dylan, we have Sister I don't know what's happening. Okay, so now I'm seeing Brother Dylan and Sister Judy in that order.
Okay.
Brother
Good
Dylan.
night, everyone.
Bye.
I have a question. Now, I'm not going to leave this one. I'm going to make any comments on if it was my child, whoever. But my question is, what if, or did this question run to their mind, if they saw was the child that they were killing, what if they kill the child?
And that's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, and you come and ask them because, I mean, you have to think about all these scenarios that next thing they see this child and they say, wait, but there's the child we killing with not easy food to kill. And they kill the child. So you watching your child get killed right in front of you and you just release your child.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Dylan. And that's the question I'm asked. Do you think it was planned that way? Because of the fact that, I mean, the little children, all the boy children were being killed. All right. Do you think they planned it? And there's a reason why I'm asking you that. Do you think they planned it that way? You know, knowing the risk. So who's the next person?
Sister Judy.
Make sure they can unmute.
They can unmute Dr. Richard, but I saw that she
Go ahead. Okay, right. Hello. Yes, I'm here. Good night. Well, Judy, Samantha is very Judy here because I've been on her computer. Yes, what I'm saying is they have no choice. Because if I keep a child, he's gonna die, he will kill him anyhow. So I mean, well, you have to take a chance because at least there's a chance that he might live. But if you keep him, you're sure he will die. So I have no choice but to let him go.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
But the thing, okay, thank you so much, Sister Judy. But the thing is, as Brother Dylan said, remember they were killing the young male children. And you're putting your child in that place, in a basket or a little ark, and floating down the river. Why would you think they would have done that instead of hiding him in the bush or whatever? Why do you think? Anybody could hazard a guess?
Before the people answer Dr. Richards, we have some comments in the chat. So Mrs. Bassat said, I don't have children yet, so I feel to save my child life, I would have done it. Sister Ursula said, yes, I will put my child, I will do it. Sister Shireen said, I agree with you, Elder Mary. Sister Margaret said, yes, because they left the sister to watch out. Sister Lorraine said, I would not have done so as a mother. That is why I think his sister was chosen to put him in. We have Elder Mary said, yes, I agree with Sister Judy. And we have Sister Yanni, we have saying that had to be divine inspiration. So we have two hands up, Elder Sherry and Sister Cindy.
Okay.
First lady wants to say something first.
Okay, so I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, the mother would have worked in Pharaoh's house. I want to believe. She probably knew that the Pharaoh's daughter had no children and felt that and knew that she would usually bathe around a certain time. And if anybody to find the child, it might be her, and she might feel that that sense of motherhood towards the child because she probably longing for a child of her own. And that will move out to compassion and secure the child. Why thought?
Thank you, Elder Sherry. Who's that? Who's next?
Sister Cindy.
Hello?
Sister
Good
Cindy?
night. Good night,
Hi.
everyone.
Bye.
But I thinking it's because of the beauty of the child. When she see the child, she couldn't resist the beauty, so she take him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, she couldn't resist the beauty. But my question is, with the mother, would you, as a mother, have done that and put your child in a situation like that? That's the question. All right. Do we have any more hands? Anybody? Joshua?
Sister Ursula?
Sister Ursula.
Hi, good night.
Hi.
I believe Moses was like 3 months old. That is why too they put him in the basket, because it was a period of time to take a year and a half to from small till a year and a half. So he was like 3 months. That's why they put him in the basket. I would have put my child in the basket. I'll tie it, put that and tie it out. I think because somewhere around Nile or somewhere there, so it had tie the basket, and also I would have put an anchor down because baby was crying, and the crying was like selling them out or so. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
We have no more hands up, Dr. Richards.
Okay. I want to go with what Elder Sherry said. You know, they had an idea, and I think it was planned, because they would have known that Pharaoh's daughter would have been bathing at that particular place at that particular time. And I think that was the best chance they had. I think that was the only chance they had. And her wanting a child, and more than that, is easier. This is in my estimation now. Women tend to be more compassionate than men. Women tend to be more compassionate. I don't think a woman would have said, hey, this is one of the Hebrew children, let's kill him. If it was Pharaoh's son, if Pharaoh had a son and he was there, that might have been a different issue. But it was his daughter. And women tend to be more compassionate, and then that motherly instinct, even though you're not a mother, but it's embedded in you. And to see a child like that, and the child is crying, I don't think, and of course we know it was divinely done, but God uses ordinary circumstances to get his will done on the earth. And so we're looking at the ordinary part of it. I mean, we could just dismiss it and say, well, God planned it. All right, but we have to understand that God uses ordinary things to bring about his plans. And so I believe that they knew what they were doing, and they planned it that way, and it worked out that way. Let's look at another story. Luke chapter 10, verses 30 to 34. Very familiar story. Luke chapter 10, verses 30 to 34. Now we're talking here about compassion, the capacity. If God is a compassionate God, then do we have the capacity to be compassionate and gracious as well?
Chapter 30. And Jesus answering said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked at him and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him.
34.
And went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn and took care of him.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's the King James Version.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to advise everybody to get a new King James Version. That's just it's just a suggestion. I heard they say raiment. I said, what uses the word raiment, boy? And set him on his beast. When we think of beast, we think of some terrible animal, but it would have been a donkey. All right, so that's why King James and I are not really friends. But to each his own. But let's look at the story. It said by chance a certain priest came down the road. Now the priests, they were supposed to be holy, set apart. All right, they were supposed to be. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So he had no compassion. Now, compassion is to be able to put yourself in the other person's position. Compassion is to have empathy, not sympathy, but empathy. It means you put yourself in the person's shoe. And if a priest couldn't do that, how could you minister to people if you don't know how they feel? How could you lead people if you don't know how they feel? And that's why Jesus Christ came down to earth, you know. Because we could have said, Lord, you don't know how hard it is down here. You don't know how hard it is to live this life. But Jesus came and showed that it can be lived without sin. So if you are a priest, you're supposed to be able to understand what is going on. You're supposed to be moved with compassion. And he saw him and he passed by on the other side. I want to ask this question. How many of us have ever passed by on the other side? I don't expect anybody to put up their hand, but I want you to think about it. How many of us have ever passed by? And I'm not talking about somebody who is beaten up in the road and things because you could call the police. And although these days, I think, you know, when you see somebody, the first thing you want to do is pull out your phone and do a video and post it on Facebook and Instagram and these things. That's what the world has come to now. So we lack compassion because we're looking for opportunity to get likes. But how many of us have ever, I want you to think about it. You know this fella, there he always, you know, he begs some money, so you know what, let me pass by on the other side. Yes, me, I want him to see me. Or you know, so and so come in and you know they need something. They need something and you decide, no, I ain't going there, no, but I don't want you to ask me for money, no? I don't want this one to ask me for this. I don't want this person to ask me for help. And it might be in genuine need. I'm talking about people who are in genuine need. I'm not talking about the ones who are professional beggars. Huh? I explained to you about one I know, two of them that I know. I'm talking about people who are in need. How many of us have avoided people who are in need? We avoided them because we don't want to give to them. It will take too much out of us, either our finances, our time, our effort. How many of us have passed by? You know, we can look at the story and say, but the priest, it's a big priest, and you see the man on the ground bleeding and he passed by on the other side, but how many of us have ever passed by? I know I have done it. Sorry to say. I've done it in my life. I've looked back and so there are times when I could have been there for people and I wasn't. How many of us in church and you know somebody need a lift and you jump in your car quick and you're gone? That's passing by. You don't want to drop them home. That's out of your way. Or maybe your car too clean. Or whatever reason. That's passing by on the other side. You're not willing to help. How many of us? Just think about it. You know, I'm not going to ask you to put up your hand now unless you want to. But I am guilty of that. I have been guilty of that. Passing by the other side. And I had to learn compassion. I have to learn that not everybody's status in life is the same. And there are people that God wants us to bless. Because when we bless them, we get blessed. Pastor Nicole just mentioned the story again with her. And this is how we get our blessing, by being a blessing to others. So we should not pass by the other side. A Levite also came and arrived and came and he looked and he too passed by on the other side. You see, we don't want to be on the same side with them because it means that we have to help them. If we are on the same side, it means that we have to stop and help. And that is the problem with a lot of us. We do not want to stop and help. So we pass by the other side. How many of us, you know, I have been witness to people waiting on other people for help. And the people know they're waiting in one place and they pass through the back door. I have seen that. I have seen people, you know the person is there waiting on you. And they say, you see me? Then they could wait. And you pass another way. That's passing by the other side. If you can't help them, it's better you go and say, I cannot help you. But don't have people holding on and hanging on and, you know, and expecting to get some assistance from you. At least if they know, they could go somewhere else. But when they hear the shout, no, brother so-and-so gone already. This one gone already. But I was waiting on them. They tell me to wait here. Now they're gone. I see them pass through that door and gone. That's passing by the other side. And we ought not to do that. We ought not to do that. I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions or comments? I will take a drink. Okay.
All right, Dr. Richards, we have Brother Dylan's hand up.
Yes, Brother Dylan.
Good night again, family. To my family, I can apologize because I've never seen the woman again. Now that I'm learning, I mean, I have compassion and I love people, but I hate when people take advantage of me. But now that I'm getting older and I understand different scenarios, and as you say, people have different status. There was a lady in a church I used to go to in Barataria. I live St. Augustine and she lives Tunapuna, not too far away. And she asked me for a job home a day. She and her 2 daughters, and I told her no. What got me upset about it, and I stood my nose, she went to the pastor in front of me and asked me in front of the pastor. It's like she wanted me to say yes because the pastor was there. And I got so mad. And I said no again, you know. And now that I get older, and I sit down here and I thinking, you know, this woman must have just didn't have enough money to pay for she and she daughters to go home, or wherever the case may be because of her status, but she don't want to announce that. And I didn't feel so fated for them now, you know, and I apologize for that. I'm really sorry. I mean, I know she may be not on this platform or anything, but I was guilty of that. And again, I just felt like she was taking advantage of me, and I say, you know what, I'm going to say no for spite. But I think that was the time to, you know, to like just humble myself and do it now, boy.
I hear you. And thank you for sharing, Brother Dylan, because it takes a lot to say that. And that's why I tell you, I have been guilty of that. I look back at my life, at instances in my life where I could have helped people, but just the effort sometimes, you know, you don't, because I can't take that on, I can't deal with that now. I can't deal with that now. If Jesus had taught, you know, that way, a lot of people wouldn't be helped. We wouldn't be here. We would not be here. And we have to know that every opportunity to help somebody is a blessing for us as well. How many of us, your phone ringing and you know it's this person calling you, and you just decide, nah, I ain't helping them. I ain't answering, you know, because just can't take them on, you know. They talk too much, or they're going to ask me for money again. Or them. Now, mind you, I am not saying that every call you're supposed to take. I'm not saying everybody is supposed to help. But Jesus was here. He didn't heal everybody. He didn't raise everybody who died. So yeah, you have to be selected, especially when people are I'm trying to find a better expression than to say they are pressed. But people pester you. And some people try to take advantage of you. And you have to have wisdom, you know, in terms of dealing with them. I understand that. So it's not everybody. But I'm talking about the fact that because you feel, I don't have no time for that person, you know, and you have an opportunity to be a blessing and you don't take it. That is what I'm talking about. When you don't have compassion, you don't feel, because as far as you're concerned, they're just bothering you and you don't realize, just like Brother Dylan said, he really probably had no money. She had no money at all. And if she could, you know, work up the courage to come and ask for a lift, then the least we could do is, you know, give her a lift. And if you can't, you know, point it to somebody or ask somebody else to give her a lift. You could help. We could help. Sometimes you can't do it yourself, but you get somebody else to do it. So don't pass by the other side. Don't ignore the phone call if you know that you can help somebody. I tell you, I get calls sometimes. You know, I always answer. I cannot see my phone ring and I not answer. But sometimes I have to take a deep breath when I see who is calling me. And one of the things that I do on my phone, I don't know, I think it's a particular app that I have. I can save people's number. I don't like numbers on my phone. So from the time you call me, even if you don't tell me who you are, I am able to pull up your number, your name, by your number. I think my app does that. And I save it because I like to know who's calling me. And so there are some people, when I see them calling, I take a deep breath, but I answer it. Because these people, and it's not any of you, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry, it's none of you. I'm saying that before God, it's none of you here. But, you know, you take a deep breath because they just start talking. They don't say, and it's always, well, I know it's none of you here because it's always, Professor, so-and-so happened, Professor, and they just start to talk. Not, can I have a minute? Are you free? None of that. Right? But I have to understand, and I've come to understand that sometimes people just need somebody to talk to offload, to say what they have to say. And that's what God called me here for. So I cannot get tired of the job He's called me to do. So I can't ignore it. I can't pass on the other side. I can't do that. Again, let me say, you need to exercise wisdom because people will drain you. But make sure you have compassion. If you can't help them personally, get help for them. And you know, there's one thing that came to mind even as I was looking at this. What has been happening in our country for the last year, especially since COVID, since these children came back out to school from being locked up, there has been a proliferation of fights. We've seen it on the media and social media. And people are of the view that this was happening all the time and it's now being highlighted. I have a different view. Yes, it was happening, but I don't think to this extent. I don't think the school fights were happening like that. When we were growing up, you get a little clout, you get a little cough, that kind of thing. Now, it seems as though they want to kill one another. When you see them fighting, you see them, and some of them have weapons. And it seems as though, in their eyes, the other person's life has no value. They will take them out. What does that say? It says that there is no compassion. It says that I want to kill you. I am angry with you for whatever reason. And I want to hurt you. I want to maim you. I want to make sure that when I'm done with you, you're not recognizable or you can't move. And it is something that is a new, well, not new, it's a spirit that is in the air. It is a spirit that has seemed to be unleashed on our children. Because before that, you used to see adults fighting like that, fighting to the death. Now it seems as though our children are fighting to the death. It seems as though our children are so angry, partly because they were cooped up for 2 years, and all that happened to them during that 2 years. Some of them were abused. Some of them were just frustrated. Some of them, they had nothing to eat because school feeding program, that's how they used to get their meals. Now they're home and there's nothing to eat. Whatever the reason, the spirit that came back out there, they just want to kill one another. And I don't know if you all have noticed that. Give me some feedback, because I am sure you would have experienced that. You have seen some of the videos. What are your thoughts on what you have seen? Is it that, am I wrong in that this is something that has been happening all the time, but it's just that people have cell phone now, so now you're seeing it? Or is it different? I want to hear what you say. What you say, anybody. Let's just get a couple of responses to that. What are your thoughts on what has been happening to our nation's children in the schools?
All right, Dr. Richards, since I feel like since I am in that age range, I have some kind of, expertise in that. But
Expertise, all right.
yeah. So from what I've seen so far, right, I don't think it's because of the lockdown. I mean, yes, you start to see it way more after lockdown, but I don't think it's the lockdown specifically that caused it, and maybe like a factor on the side. But I feel like the main reason is for things that happen in school, because when you look at all these videos, you really see, or I notice that is more of the girls' schools that get into fights, and they always fighting over in my own words, I think it's trivial things like boys, somebody stole their stuff, that kind of thing. Just disagreements and they fight over it. But I just think that it's what happens in school itself, or maybe just the environment that they in all the time. I don't really think it's the lockdown. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the lockdown also brought them to an agitated place. Maybe being inside all the time got them agitated, and now that they're outside, they get tripped off easily. But I just personally think that it's little problems probably in school that triggering it, and maybe the lockdown just helps.
Escalated it, exacerbated it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joshua. Anyone else? No thoughts on this?
Sister Kimlan.
Hi, everybody. Part of me wants to think it's a lockdown, but a major part, I believe, is that back in the days, there's no censorship. And that means that it's also driving a lot of sexual impurity, because some of these fights, you tend to see girls fighting related to, man and woman kind of stuff at the age that they are very high strung and very sexually charged, because I actually have a cousin around that age, and the way he speaks, even if he speaks as if he's in the life and he's not, and you have to keep scolding him because it's not funny. But I think the ones that are fighting, you have to remember what they're watching on TV. They're all those love and hip hops and those reality shows. The audience, the whole gist of these shows about fighting. And they got to watch that for 2 years, and I think that also opened up. So yes, it was there, but it got compounded. That was, but I think more so the violence came, and it's connected to like sexuality as well, because they kind of, in the words of what my brother would have said to us when we were young, is go be speeding, but now they're real speeding. So I think that is what is why it's like this now.
Okay, thank you, Sister Kimlan.
Elder Sherry.
Yeah, I think Sister Kimlan is onto something, and particularly too, we have to understand the time we are living in, the generation of vipers, the Bible referred to them, and also the music. There's a lot of things, that influence behavior. The music that these young people are listening to. I mean, if you listen to some of the things that is popular with the young people, you recognize it speaks to violence. It speaks to sexuality and sensuality and that kind of thing. So when you have these things programmed in you, after a time, you respond, in like manner. And the lockdown may have contributed, but I don't think so. I think what made it so is because you're now coming out, and then all these videos coming out at the same time. But I remember before COVID, where a young girl run off of a hood of a vehicle with a flying kick at another girl between people trying to hold them back. I remember seeing in one of those downtown malls where a police is trying to restrain a young lady, and she like all up in the police officer's face and ready to take him on, So I think is the lockdown may just make it appear that way, because now they were bottled up for a while, so you wasn't hearing all of it, and then you lose them, to the point where they have lost, and I think too, because parents were still trying to make ends meet and be out there, and they were unattended and, you know, having nothing to do. All of that would have been a contributor to the behavior.
Thank you, Elder Sherry. What else do we have?
We have Sister Yane and Brother Sheldon.
Yane? Sister Yane? Okay, let's have Brother Sheldon, and then we come back. And then we come back to.
Let's get everyone. Dr. Richards, I don't know, there was a report that came out recently before the fast started, where the police commissioner stated that there are 240 gangs in the country.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at the ages of the young men, especially the young men that are in these gangs, is between that 15 to 25 age group. Right now, these are the young men that these guys and them are looking to initiate into these gangs, because these are the ones that they are using to do all these killings and all these things, because they know for a fact they will not go to jail. The most they may send them is YTC, right? And these are the ones that these young men and them, they want this one so bad to be a part of these gangs that they are literally willing to do anything to get in there, just to be able to have a gun in their hands, right? They would literally come and take you out for no apparent reason. If you just look at them the wrong way, right? They will come and take you out, right? And while we had the lockdown, there were situations where a lot of parents had to go out to work and leaving children unattended, right? So because of that too, right, you find the children and them had all that sort of spare time on their hand. They're not really going into the classes that they're supposed to be going into, right? Who did not have the devices to go into the classes, right? So they had a lot of free time on their hands. So the only thing that they can do now is to go into the gangs in the area, be a part of the gangs. Because I mean, they say when you look around, I mean, they say when you walk around Port of Spain and you look and you see the amount of young men, young boys that are a part of these gangs, and you know for a fact it's an initiation that they on. You know it, right? The things that they do, right? And they are recruiting these young men, and the level of violence that you're seeing, because they know for a fact, they say the average age of a gang member is 25, because I remember there was one time I heard a story of one guy. He threw a party at age 25 because he said he never thought he'd have reached that age, right? And in the gang, it is considered a 25-year-old, right? So that age group that you're seeing there now, that between that 15 to 25 age group, that is the age group that they are basically targeting right now to get those young men in the gangs. And where the young girls are concerned, the young girls are watching, right, what is going on with these things, because what they're looking at is that, okay, they tell themselves, if I associate myself with these type of fellas now, right, then when they go and they do their stuff, I will benefit from it, because what it is they're seeing is that, okay, there is some kind of reward for me, right? When I do this now, that, you know, when they're having the parties and all kind of thing, they will bring money for me. They'll bring, I'll get whatever little wig or weave or whatever, you know, just you know, bragging rights then, right? And a lot of it is that we have a lot of that going on right now. And I mean to say, it is sad because we are losing our young people, right? It is very, very sad, right? But, you know, to say how to win them back, it's difficult because you know the other day when I heard when some minister asked the commissioner of police if prayer is the only crime fighting program that she have, and I found it kind of strange that, you know, how could you make a statement like that? Right? So you really and truly don't care about what the state of the country, because when the Polish commissioner said, hey, and she reached out to the different churches and said, look, reach out to the God that always serve, because we need divine intervention in this country. Right? And that is what it is. I think we really need to win back our youths, right? And yes, it have to start from the parents, and them have to also to take some form of responsibility too, because there was a time, there's a time a friend of mine made a statement and it got a lot of people upset, right? And he said, when illiterates make illiterates, the cycle could never break. And a lot of people got upset with that statement. I said, but all you understand what it is he's saying, right? All you're not understanding what it is he's saying, right? So what it is you're seeing now, right? It is sad, right? I mean, this is sometimes I now have a grandson, and I am really wondering what he's going to meet when it's time for him to go into school, right? So, I mean, you're looking at the gang, at the whole gang situation, right? And these men, because they have no care. Everything is about money and greed, and it all comes down to greed, right? It all comes down to greed. They don't care about nobody. They just care about themselves. And it comes from the top, from the politician, from the businessman, comes straight down, right? And I keep saying, you all keep killing all yourself for literal crumbs, killing out one another for crumbs. It makes no sense. And if you all watch what is happening, right? Every time one die, another one take the place, and he might last for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and then he is gone. And so all you're in realizing this, when would you all open all your eyes and realize this? Yeah, right? Indeed. You know, so it's just my contribution.
Thank you, Brother Sheldon. Thank you. And let me just say one thing quickly. You know, people have been laughing and mocking the commissioner of police because she talked about prayer. But if prayer can't work, can anything else? Okay, I'm looking at the I'm now seeing the chat. I see Sister Yanni is back and Sister Samantha. I want to give Sister Yanni a chance because her hand was up. And then Sister Samantha, it's already 9:22. So let's go.
Hi, good night. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I want to be respectful of time, but I do hope that when we do have more time, we could continue the conversation about children, because I think that is important. I want to agree with you a little bit of what Brother Sheldon said, and I want to also validate what your son would have said. I can't remember his name, Joshua.
Yes, yes.
Would have said, because that is his direct experience as a child now, but I definitely, there's a link between emotional maturity and we are humans, so by nature we can be emotionally driven, and if children aren't given the tools to navigate the big feelings that they would have, say somebody, what Joshua said was, it might be trivial matters. As a child, if you even look back to your childhood, certain things that adults would have been saying, this is so trivial, it was feeling big and important to you at that point in time. So you feeling all these overwhelming emotions, you vex, and you don't know what to do with that. And why I said emotional maturity is linked to spiritual maturity is because if you aren't given biblical principles or kingdom principles to say, okay, when I feel this, this is what I could do with this emotion. And I know that the emotion compelling me to want to behave in this way. Also, they battle on a lot of other things, as I think it was Elder Sherry would have said, the music says it's good to behave this way. And you're getting pips for behaving this way. So, and then what Brother Sheldon said was that they indoctrinating all of these younger boys, and it's really that children have this core desire for a sense of belonging. So if I want to belong, I want to feel seen, and all I see on media, on love, on hip hop, on in the music is that if I do behave this way, and my whole being, my body, when I get back telling me to behave this way, then everybody's saying, you know what? It's pips to behave this way. I'll belong if I behave this way. That's a big fight as a small child without any principles to know how to navigate that. So while the children are doing a lot, I think we should have more empathy and put ourselves in their shoes and see what they're fighting against and know that what they really need is, okay, when I feel this way, like knowing how to have compassion, knowing how to deal with anger, not being driven, not acting out of wrath, and these kind of different things. And I think if we validate them and make them feel seen while showing them the right way, things could be different.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Sister Samantha, and we're gonna, that would be the last comment.
Hi, good night. Everyone can hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, great. So just to quickly touch on the point where you asked, how is it that the students came back out of school and on the first day of school, a fight would have ensued? I had the opportunity to, experience virtual classes. So I was taken out of the traditional classroom setting and was placed in the virtual realm of a classroom. And on that realm, you can still communicate without teachers being involved with individuals directly. And so if it is that those students had an issue with one another, they would still be communicating, and it could be done in such a way whereby persons can be speaking to one individual, ganging up on them virtually, and plotting as soon as they get the opportunity to come back out for that individual. So it wasn't a matter of they were in class, they were doing their work, and nothing was taking place. And then as soon as they came back out to school, they saw one another and immediately started to fight. So that is the situation with the virtual classrooms, where teachers aren't able to truly see exactly what is transpiring behind their, I guess they'll call it a chalkboard. So they'll be up on that board teaching, not knowing what's going on. And in the background, a fight, a problem arises amongst the students, and no parental or no person of authority to, put it to rest or dissolve it in that moment. And so the moment those students are allowed to go back to school, you see the first day of school, they pick up on that and they act out.
Yeah.
And so that was the background behind fights occurring the first day of school, and people are wondering why it was occurring in the background virtually.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It would have been a build-up over the 2 years, and a number of things happening behind the scenes. And, I guess it just came out. It exploded when they came back out. So we have to help our children. We have to help them. We have to teach them how to have compassion. Compassion, you see, when you have compassion, you would not want to hurt another human being. When you have compassion, you feel what they feel. You place yourself in their position. And it's one thing that we need to teach our children. And the reason why I'm saying it, because we have the ability, the capacity to have compassion. Even a child has the capacity to do that because we have the likeness of God in us. We are like God. But of course, there are so many other factors. And one of these days, your sister Yadi said, we will continue that conversation with the children on how to deal with them, and what do we do as adults, as parents, as guardians, as teachers. How do we help our children? Because I shudder to think, like, Black Brother Sheldon, one of the things that plagues my mind all the time is what kind of world are we leaving for our children when they grow up, as they're growing up. The things that have become normal, or things that were abhorred in our times, things that we would not think of, but it's normal for them. Now, when you open the newspapers now and you see murder number so and so, in fact, it doesn't even make the front page anymore, because evil is rampant and evil is taken over in the sense that it's out there, and that's why we have to do what we have to do. That's why God is building us up. He's preparing us, because a time is coming, and it's now here, when we have to deal with some stuff that we never did in times past.
Dr. Richards, right before you wrap up, I just wanted to say something very quickly.
Yes.
I also wanted to add on to your point that you have to teach children also to control emotions instead of, well, also together with teaching them to have compassion, because compassion could only work up to a certain point, I feel like, because there are very, very strong emotions such as rage, where compassion will not work. So that's what I'm saying. They need to teach your children to control their emotions as well as have compassion, so that when you reach to that boiling point, you could still calm yourself down.
Yeah, I hear you and I agree with you and I understand. I'm just saying, as far as compassion, you see that final blow, you fight with somebody, that final blow you want to deliver, you know, compassion is what holds you. But the thing is, what is interesting is that the kind of things that we have to concentrate on now with our children is what we had to deal with the adults. This thing about controlling your emotions and all these things, those were adult things. That wasn't for children. Now we have to teach the children that. Now we have to focus on the children. Things that adults, the adult problems and the adult issues, the fighting and the killing and the maiming and all these things. These were adult issues. But now we have to deal with it, because if we don't, we're going to lose our children. And so, as I said, we're going to get deeper into it at another time. Tomorrow, God's willing, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and deal with something that relates to what we're talking about, who we are, but also is connected to this week, Passion Week. I want to deal with that. I don't know if we're going to have time to deal with all of it tomorrow night or tomorrow and Friday, tomorrow and Thursday, sorry. But it's important that we deal with it, because it will give us an understanding of who we are, how we are valued. And then we're going to come back to this at another time, right after that. So God bless you. I want to remind the folks with the baptism, please call Sister Myrna, Sister Jiva, give them your names and your pickup point so that we can get it organized. You have until tomorrow, and God's willing, and we have a meeting tomorrow at 7:30 so that we'll deal with the baptism. That's before we have Kingdom Study. At 7:30, we're going to have a meeting to talk about the baptism, the do's and the don'ts, the expectations, etc., etc. And we'll deal with that tomorrow at 7:30 sharp. Okay? And of course, we meet in the morning at 3 a.m. for worship, 4 a.m. for prayer, 11 for worship, 12 for prayer, 5 p.m. for worship, 6 p.m. for prayer. We have our Kingdom Study, we have our meeting at 7:30 and Kingdom Study tomorrow evening, where we kind of switch gears a little bit. And I promise you, you're going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy this. It's going to be very interesting. Okay, God bless you. Oh, wonderful night. Pass back over to First Lady. I almost just